Hey guys, I want to go over some comments left on a video I did a couple of days ago. I was giving evidence for God. Let's look at a few of them now. The first one is by CoolTube2000, and he says the fine-tuning argument seems to imply God is subject to the physical laws rather than the other way around. And so, CoolTube, my first question would be, what do you mean by that? Because the entire argument really is saying that God is the author of these laws. That if there is laws that exist, there must be a lawmaker or a lawgiver. In fact, more specifically, it's implying that there must be a mind behind all of the details and fine tuning given in life. For example, if you were to put yourself as a fish in an aquarium, you might start thinking, where's this food coming from? It falls from the sky every day. And what's keeping this oxygen pump running and the water exactly the right temperature? And what you'll see if you zoom out is we have a mind. There's somebody that has put together all of the right items in just the right way as so to create a life-sustaining environment. And so when we look at creation, our life-sustaining environment, we see the same thing. It's evidence for a living mind or an intelligence behind all of this that knows what we need and is able to supply that and sustain it so that we can have an environment to live in. And so let's look at the next comment by CoolTube. He says, can we be 100% sure anything exists? And I like Rene Descartes on this one. He says, I think, therefore I am. And what he means is because he's able to think and question his own existence and his own rationality, that proves that he in fact exists. In fact, he goes a step further to say he can actually doubt everything he thinks, and because he's able to doubt, that also is proof that he exists. And so once we can prove that you exist, then we can take things like observation and inference, forming of hypotheses and testing theories to show that certain things in the real world actually exist. You know that your house exists and your work exists because you go and experience these places more than likely every day. The other way you could go with this would be Immanuel Kant, because this question sounds very suspiciously close to Kant's beliefs and philosophy, which is you can't know the real world. He said the real world is outside of you, and your brain is taking in data and processing it to give you a view of your subjective world, so to speak. And so you can never be 100% certain of what's going on in the actual real world. My question to that is, how does he know that about the real world? He seems to be exempting himself from his own theory. It seems to be saying that Kant can know certain things about the real world, but we can't. It's self-defeating in that manner. He's telling you what the world is like, and yet he's exempting himself and his theories from his own ideas. Okay, let's look at the next comment from C. Austin 582. And he says, with the cosmological argument, you are presupposing that there was some kind of choice involved. Choice is a human concept, and your injection of it here is baseless. And so I first want to address the human concept idea. I see people throw this around a lot, and I think it's close, but it's not right. Okay, so let's do an illustration to kind of show you where I'm going with this. Let's go back in time to where before there were any humans, and let's just say that there was a monkey standing at the base of a tree, and it's looking up at the tree and it sees a bundle of bananas, and it knows it can climb the tree and get fed, but risk injury from falling. Now, it could also choose to stay on the ground and be safe, but go hungry. What does the monkey choose? Now, we know that it will choose something. It's not going to just sit there indefinitely, and at some point it will be hungry enough that the hunger overpowers the threat of injury. And so at that point, being that there's no humans involved, do we call that a monkey concept? And if it was, that just pushes the idea back one level further. And so if there were no monkeys, then would it be a bug concept or a fish concept, right? And so I think where it needs to actually land is it's a concept of the mind. Only a mind can choose. And so a monkey has a mind and a person has a mind, and so they can choose. Okay, the only other thing I would want to say about that is that to go from nothing to something requires a choice or a decision to alter the state of being or non-being in this case. Otherwise, it would have remained as nothing. The only other option being necessity, but what can necessitate everything coming into existence if nothing existed to necessitate it? Keep in mind, Einstein's theories show that space, time, and matter came into existence together at the same time. And so, before that, there was nothing, literally no thing, which is what Aristotle said rocks think about. Okay, let's move on to the last comment here. It's going to be from David J. Kelly 1160. And so David says, I'm 100% behind Dawkins, Hitchens, Lee, and Dillahunty. Entitled to your opinion, but, and I quote, just wow. So David, I would like to know, are you literally behind them 100%? Have you thought through all of the positions that they talk about? Because what I find, let's just take Richard Dawkins for a minute, because we were already talking about him in the previous video. Most of his views are inconsistent. It could be that all of his views on this subject are inconsistent. I haven't seen all of them, but certainly most. And I think this comes from, if we look at Psalm 14:1, it says, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. Why is that? Why does the Bible say that you're a fool if you deny the existence of God? That's because God grounds all absolutes and truth. And any position that denies truth and the existence of absolutes must ultimately contradict itself. And so these guys' beliefs, when you take them to their logical conclusion, at some point are going to contradict themselves. They're going to fall apart. They might make them sound very good and logical, but when you press them, you're going to find inconsistencies. Let's just take a couple of examples here. I'm going to look at one of Dawkins' most famous quotes from The God Delusion. He says, the God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully. Whew. A mouthful by any standard. My question to you is, where is he getting the standard from to say all of that? There's a lot of moral terms in there. How is he grounding those terms? Is it his own personal opinion? And if it is, why should we value it? I mean, everybody has an opinion. Is his more valid than the next person's? It seems to me that he's stealing from God and trying to steal the moral grounding framework that God offers to argue against him. I mean, he should have no way to complain if God doesn't exist. In fact, Richard Feynman had a quote. He says, you have to have a framework where you can allow something to be true. Otherwise, you're perpetually asking why. And so God offers that grounding of the framework that when we say something is true, it means it's God's nature. God's very nature grounds what truth means. Now, let's go on a little bit. Dawkins says that in the God Delusion that he thinks God is evil. I mean, clearly, we could probably sum up that whole previous quote by the word bad or evil. So he has a quote later in the book, and it says, the universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. So is the first quote correct in the fact that God is evil, or is the second quote correct, that there is no evil? Which is it? It's just inconsistent. So David, I would suggest that you look at his views very stringently. Take them to their logical conclusions. Do they hold up to the test? If not, look for a view that does. And that one is likely going to lead you to the truth. So guys, thanks for listening to me. If you like this sort of content, hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.